Well, Ken, that all changed very quickly and very suddenly midway through the second quarter. When did you sort of notice it was heading in your direction?
Oh, yeah, about that time. Obviously, after that little burst that Carlton put on, and credit where credit's due, they were able to get a couple of balls out of the centre bounce and put the scoreboard pressure on us. And but after that, obviously, it became pretty much the way we'd like it to be played.
Have you had a game like that this year where it's played so comprehensively on your terms?
No, at round 22, it's hard to remember every game, but it was a pretty strong performance by the end. Obviously, today, I don't think you could probably wish to be in too much more control than we were able to get out of that game. But look, let's be fair to Carlton. They couldn't have pretty much a worse week when it came to injuries and who was coming in and out of their side. It just seemed that almost every hour there was another player having to pull out of their side. So I thought, that probably played out the way we would have hoped it would in the end with the dominance that we got.
The live ladder in the last quarter, you were closing the percentage on Geelong pretty significantly. Was that a message at three-quarter time to really put the foot down? You might have an opportunity to jump into that top two?
No, not one bit. Not something that we spoke about at all. We just talked about being reliable and playing the same way the whole way. And, top two, top one at the end of round 23, I'll look at the ladder and we'll decide how we've gone through the year and recognise what the next challenge looks like. As I said, 10, 12 weeks ago, let's not worry about it until we get to the end of round 23 because so many things change so quickly in this game.
And Ken, what did you make at the start there? Obviously, they Carlton applied plenty of heat around the contest and Walsh sort of got off the chain a bit. What did you attribute the start to?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think they had some energy early in the game, and as you said, a couple of their key players, particularly Sam Walsh, was dominating the game for them, and they were able to get the ball in their front half and lock it in there. The challenge in any game of AFL football is that you're always going to be up against it for a period of time, regardless. And that was certainly that time for us. And by the end of the first quarter, I thought we're going back in it a little bit better, but certainly the first 5 to 10 minutes of the second quarter, they dominated.
And did you like the look of the forward setup with the bigs up there? It looks like you've almost got that forward setup ready for September now.
It doesn't matter what I like, I don't reckon, because there's a lot of opinions that come out about whether it's right or wrong, regardless of the results. But yeah, clearly from a performance point of view, we think our talls can work. We also think our smalls can also do it together. So I think it gives us great options going through the next 4 or 5 weeks, hopefully. And we can pick the team that we think is best suited to the opposition that we play and the performance that we need.
Scotty Lycett subbed off at three-quarter time. Was that precautionary? Because it looked like he played on for a quarter after tweaking that knee.
Yeah, no, his knee was a bit sore, so we were very mindful of that. And we at three-quarter time we had that conversation. Said, look, it's not perfect, but I think it'd be best if I didn't have to. And we took that out of his hands. To be fair to him, we said, look, mate, it's just not worth the risk, and we don't need to make you any sore. We need to see how he pulls up tomorrow before we make any decisions around next week as well. So when you're in that position. We didn't abuse in any way the sub because he was certainly sore enough. It was just a matter of it was the right thing to do at that time for us.
And did you like what Pete Ladhams brought to the table after Scotty came off, even while he was there as well? But I thought Pete Ladhams really stamped his claim for a permanent spot by the looks of it.
Yeah, he played one of his really good games, I think, in the second half, particularly Pete. He started marking the ball. We know he's got that ability to mark the ball and dominate the ball around the ground. He's a really athletic big man. We like it, obviously, when he starts to grab the ball, and that makes his game so much more damaging for us. And the fact that he's jumping hard at centre bounce too was also, that's where he can really make up some ground for us around the ground and at centre bounce.
And do you know what round 23 looks like yet, or is it way too early to sort of?
Yeah, no, way too early. All we know is it's the Bulldogs in Melbourne and at some stage, sometime.
Just given the talk around the potential pre-finals bye, whether or not that gets scrapped or not, does it change what you do in terms of selection and whether or not you look to manage a couple of blokes next week through the last game of the season, or does that not have an effect for you?
No, certainly. I've never operated that way. I think we always operate with pick the best team that's available and put them out there and play. And in this last couple of years, we've never sure what's next. So you've just got to be prepared to go every week as well as you can. And for us, that will be the attitude into round 23. We want to go at it as hard as we possibly can.
Right. David Teague said he could hear you at quarter time, but we couldn't hear you up here. So what did you tell your midfielders?
I told them that we need to play an accountable brand and an accountable game of football. And they know that every week, and we do that more often than not, we do that. But the challenge you have when you get in an open field game, you're betting on who can make the most damage with the ball, and we don't certainly like to have that happen. And Carlton were able to mark the ball and control the ball, so that was kind of the message that we got to the whole team, not just the midfielders.
Can I just ask? I mean, big picture, there seems to have been a few doubts externally about Port. Yet here you come into the last round, equal top, second spot, playing for top two. It must be incredibly satisfying to, I guess, have your own fate in your own hands entering that last round for the top two finish.
Yeah, it does, Steve. I mean, we're really, worked really hard for 22 rounds or 21 games to put ourselves in this position. As we said all the way through the year, it's always going to be challenging, never going to be perfect the whole way through the year. It's a test of your stamina and endurance and your commitment, really, to get to the end of 23 in pretty good shape. And there's a lot of sides who would love to be where we are and where other sides are at the top of the ladder, but you still got to maximise your opportunity from here.
Is there any concern at all about the fact that you've been a bit flat out the blocks 2 weeks in a row and taken a bit of a rev up to get going?
Yeah, there's always a concern that you want to start games as strong as you possibly can, but I didn't think the first quarter was terrible for us. I thought we were actually in the contest, and we expect a side like Carlton, with all the challenges that they had through the week, that they were going to bring something, particularly early in the game. I thought we were okay, but that 7 or 8 minutes in the second quarter got a bit out of control. But obviously from there on, we were able to dominate the game. But yeah, to answer the first part, we'd much rather have a much stronger first quarter and early second quarter.
Ken, what's the update on Scott Lycett?
He banged his knee early on in the game to a point where he could keep going for a good bit. We got to the 3/4 time and it was still causing him some grief. So we made a decision that was sensible and the right thing for us to do was to look after him if we could and see that hopefully we can get him up and about so he can play again next week.
Is there any insight as to what it might be, or is it something that will need to be scanned? What are you going to do next?
Yeah, we'll have a look at it, and we'll obviously, like you do with anyone, we scan them all. But it's a typical ruckman injury. So we talk about PCL type injuries, and when they clash knees, you're hoping all the time that there's nothing more than that. And we're hopeful that that's the case with Scott. But we'll obviously update once we get that information.
Just your attacking options too, Ken. I mean, Georgiadis and Marshall, they all moved well today. The Smalls all got involved. The amount of goal kickers and the spread of, I guess, attacking threats. You must be bullish about the prospect that you can sort of bother any club with that arsenal of attackers up there.
Yeah, there's no doubt our forward line is potent when it gets going together, and we haven't had them together much. I mean, that'd be the critical piece that we've had a lot of players miss, and particularly in our smalls, and we've manufactured through our talls a bit of the way through this year. And now we're starting to get to a point where we're quite liking the tall options, and we know that we can benefit from some of the boys on the ground level too. So it's a really nice position. But there was parts of this season where we had 5 or 6 of those blokes not available at the one time, and we had to use the whole squad then, and we did it pretty well to put ourselves in a position now.
Ken, how do you feel about having one more chance to get rid of that question that's always posed to you about beating a top 4 side with the Western Bulldogs next week?
Doesn't matter. We're second. We got a chance to play for our right position on the ladder at the end of 23 rounds. It doesn't matter. I get it, understand it. Doesn't matter too much about who you do and don't beat through the 23 rounds, because there's games that through the whole season where the results haven't gone as we see all the time. The results don't go exactly the way. Yep, it absolutely works out that we haven't beaten the Geelong, Bulldogs, Melbourne, Brisbane, the top 3 or 4 teams around us in the ladder, but it doesn't mean we can't beat them when the time comes.
What are the biggest things you need to address from here, do you think, in terms of specifics?
Your first question, we might get our starts right, because it's going to be really important, because you can't give away a start in games. Basically for us next week, starting with the Bulldogs, it feels and looks like a bit like the start of the final. So you're going to have to be at your absolute best and, to give away. And we did that with the Bulldogs last time we played them here at Adelaide Oval. We gave them a 5 or 6 goal, or they took a 5 or 6 goal head start on us, and we took a lot of work to get back in that game. So we just can't afford to have that happen to us against the best teams in the competition.
Was there some satisfaction, at least last week? It sounded like you gave them a halftime rev up. This week, at least, they were able to correct some of those things themselves at the end of the second quarter. They obviously were able to make adjustments out in the field.
Yeah, they've been pretty mature as a group, I think. Even though there's a number of young players out there, they're pretty mature now, and they know, they know that our record in difficult circumstances has improved almost for the last couple of years. Every time we've been in a sticky position, we've been able to find a way to get through it. They grow with in belief when that happens, I reckon. And they start to figure out that, you know what, don't panic, stay calm, know what we do, stick to the process a little bit, the boring old answers, but that's what the boys now understand a bit better. And I think they've got a good handle on that.
Can I just go back to that answer you gave us about needing to play an accountable brand of footy? Was that about attitude or about the way they were setting up to attack the ball?
No, I think it's as much around what the opposition challenge you with initially. I think what they do early, and you know, you can always read pretty early in a game, you know, what are the oppo's intent, whether it's to go forward quickly, whether it's to maintain the ball, whether it's to take some energy out of you in defence. And sometimes that's what it does. It can, you know, it can be hard work to defend a team that's chipping the ball around, but you've just got to hit your starting points really close and really accurate. Otherwise, you'll continue to chase all day. So yeah, I think it's you know, it's defend with energy and urgency right from the very start of the game, and to know that it's not always going to be perfect, and they are going to take some arcs, and they are going to use the ball good at times. But you've got to keep the pressure and keep it building from contest to contest. You've got to be able to survive a failure, maybe even a second one. You've got to be able to put together and stand up for 2 or 3, you know, parts of a play and be able to whether you win it up front, whether you get in the midfield, or whether you have to survive down back. You just got to have a system that allows you to win the ball back at different stages.
So that gets back to something you guys said earlier in the year. If you don't win a contest, make sure you halve it and then build from there.
Yeah, it's a good spot to start, because you don't, you know, the little amount that you can give away from whether it be intercept or whether it be from stoppage starts is really important. So every team tries to do that. You've got to be lucky enough to get it done more often than not throughout a game to get wins.
It's tended to be either McKenzie or Cleary in the team as a result of injuries to one or the other. Firstly, is Trent likely for next week? Has there been any update on him for next week?
Yeah, no, we think Trent. We don't know for certain, because we'll need to wait and make those decisions as the week unfolds. But we're optimistic around Trent being available, and then we'll obviously sit down and make a selection around what we like in our backs. You know, how many we like to have out there and how many we need to have out there with our running backs as well. So as it has been all year, it'll be about picking the team that we need to play against the Bulldogs.